Hello, today I'm installing this LT-803 transmitter from Listen Technologies. This particular one came with a kit that had the rack mount arms, so those were very easy to attach, and I unfortunately went ahead and did that before I started the video here, but there are screws on the bottom of the unit that come out, and then you just take the arms and set those there. And then there's some supplied screws that you use with the same holes that are already there that you took the screws out of, and just mount the arms to it. The only difference with the screws is there's a little recessed area in the arm, and so that screw fits that, so it's nice and flat if you were to have something else that you were to put directly beneath it. It works really nicely to rack mount. Basically you just supply your audio connection and your power from the back, as well as the connection for your antenna. Now in the case of what I'm doing here, I am going to be connecting an external antenna that I'm going to have up in the attic, but you'll notice this little rubber grommet thing here. This comes out, and they do have a kit where you can have a 90-degree antenna that can mount there, and then there's a little jumper cord that comes in and connects to the back of the unit if you wanted to have an antenna mounted right here instead of mounting the one in the attic. So I'm going to go over that antenna installation here in a bit. I'm going to go and kind of get set up for that, and then I'll review it. But basically I've got the cord, it's a coax cord for it. They're very specific about the type of cable you need to have. You can't use regular cable TV cable. Coax, if you're wanting to change out from the cable they supply, now they do supply a 25-foot one. So that's what I'm going to be using here. I'm going to get it as far as I can to where I want it. If I decide I want to relocate it later, then I'll order some more cable and position it even further to where I want. But certainly what they include is enough to get started with. Now you notice the unit itself comes with this kit, and I'll share in the description the particular one that I purchased, but it comes with the mount for the antenna. So the various brackets that you can use to get things going, and then you can do two different installations with this for the antenna. You can use these telescoping ones to do a bipole, and you'll notice they include 72 megahertz. I've already opened one of those, so that's what that looks like. It telescopes out. They also include, and I haven't taken it out of the package here, 216 megahertz. So this kit is for either one, depending on which range that you purchased. So I'm going to be using the 72 megahertz ones myself. There are installations that you can do with this, where you can install it inside of a wall. There's a lot of different opportunities. You can install it on a pole. You can install it in a wall. Just be sure to follow the instructions very carefully as far as the material that you're mounting it to and the requirements that exist for that particular material. If you're mounting it in a wall and you need, you can't extend the bipole antennas, you can use these flexible ones, and they include these as well at 72 and 216, which is very handy. And these you can just spread out and attach to the wall if you're, let's say, putting the antenna inside some sheetrock so it's hidden out of view, for example. But there's a lot of different ways in which you can attach it based on your location, your facility, in which you would want to do that. So anyway, they include all the screws and everything that you would need in here. You can see all the various bags, machine screws and all that. So it's very handy, and then we have a final mounting plate here. So I'm going to get all the bits and pieces set up that I need and go through and kind of get that started, doing the install on that in the attic area, and then I will review that with you and kind of explain the installation there. All right, so I have found a spot in the attic where I'm going to install the antenna. For right now, I'm going to mount it to this board here. Later on, I'm going to come back and put some wood bracing in to bring it out some, so I can kind of adjust the angle on it. But for today, this is where I'm going to put it. So my 25-foot reaches, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and get my instructions, and first thing I'm going to do is mount my base plate to the wood, and then I will go from there. So there's a couple of pieces that come with this. Of course, this is the part that the dipole antennas connect to, with the B and C connector on it for your wire. Okay, and kind of the way I understand it, you got to pay attention to this where it says ground. And so you want to have this mounted. There's instructions in there. It says based on, you know, how high up it is. So I think if it's above 25 feet, then you turn it so that the ground is up. If it's below, you know, less than 25 feet, you have the ground down. And so they also calls to mount this to a mounting plate. And you can see there's all kind of holes in this because there's all kind of different orientations and things you can use. There's this guy that can be used for different mounting situations as well, like into ceilings and stuff. I am not doing that, mounting it to the wall, so pretty sure I won't be using that one. And then this appears to be the plate that I will be using. So we've got this, and there's some screws for that. And I'm pretty sure that that's what this is going to end up mounting to, like that. And then I'll have this mounted to the wall, I think. Although that's gonna stick out. It's interesting. So I've got to look at this for a minute and see what works as far as mounting this goes. Obviously, those screws are going to be a problem if that's the case. So I will look at these instructions and then we'll continue. Okay, so figured out what I'm going to do. So when you're mounting with the mounting plate and these screws, you know, have that protrusion in the back, basically you just need to, if you're on sheetrock or wood or whatever, you're just going to take this and put it up and mark where those protrusions are, and then use a drill and just make yourself a gap in behind it, you know, for a recession for it to sit in. One way I think to do that would be to take, you know, Sharpie and write on the back of it real quick and then stick it up there. You can also take these screws out and put, you know, a pin or something through there and mark it where those are. Whatever works for you to mark it. Now, before you go marking it, something that's important is make sure you've got enough room for your antennas to extend. So these are the dipole, and they are extendable. So you want to run those all the way out. Make sure you get every bit of it too, because they kind of want to stick. So you get that whole thing, and then you're going to want to make sure you've got enough room for it to go all the way down and all the way up without touching. So your ground side, and then your top side. So see here, I barely got enough room to get all the way up here, and then all the way down to here, right? So barely. It is actually just perfect, and that is a blessing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find where that exact spot is. I'm gonna mark it, mark my spot to drill out, make my little spots for the insets there, and then I'm gonna mount that plate. And then that makes it easier if I need to remove it later, because this plate's got these screws you can just loosen up to take the whole antenna off if you need to for some reason. So so let me go. I got my drill bits and stuff downstairs, down out of the attic, so I got to go get those. And so I'll go do that and then get the thing mounted here. We'll go from there. Now, just to kind of show you what I did is I loosely put those screws in so I could set the mounting plate on there, put in the dipole antenna, and then made sure that it had enough room to go down to where I needed it. And then I took up just a marker and marked my plate at the top and the bottom. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this part here loose, and then I can set my plate back up there aligned with the top and the bottom, and with the screws out, and then use a pencil just to mark where I need to make my inset. Okay, so I'm going to take these screws out. I'm going to take these screws out right here. Make sure you are very careful that you don't drop these in the attic, because I could imagine if you were in the attic and you drop these, it's going to be extraordinarily fun finding them. So I've got my box over here that I can set them in really quickly. All right, and then what I'm going to do is take a lead pencil and then just mark through these holes. Great thing about that. So I'm just going to set that up here like that. See if I can do this with one hand. That'd be a challenge. All right. And then just mark it through there, like so. And I'm gonna do that on the other side too. And then I'll take the drill and make my little inset. All right, so I don't know if you can see, but I've got my spots here and here. So I will go ahead and put that there. Make that. Bracket now. Just test fit that. Okay, so got that there. Gonna adjust this right one a little bit. It's a little high. That happens. Challenges of recording and doing everything with one hand. All right, so about got it. I want to get it squared up, so I'm gonna pause the video so I can use both my hands to adjust this, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I've got this mounted up here now. I used some wood screws to mount the bracket, which is weighed plenty to hold the weight of what we're gonna have here. So now I can go back and get my screws out of here. And put those back. being very careful not to drop them. Okay, so got that. All right, and now we have the antenna. So I'll take this and just slide that like that. Swap out the bits. And just tighten that up, just like so. So we've got that, and then let's see, should have my other antenna in here. I do. So get that. Voila. That screws in here. So get that nice and tight, that nice and tight. All right. Then I'll extend this one up. Ooh. And like I said, there's this last one seems to be just kind of hard. To get that one to extend. So I've got that one extended. Let's see what that looks like. Like I said, very close. And then down here, we've got the ground side. So extend that. You don't want anything touching it, obviously. There we go, we've got that. And then I'll take my connector that I have here, and that'll come in from the back right here. Let's see if I can show you that. So it just snaps on there. All right. And that is that. I'm gonna do some cleanup here, just kind of get these wires that aren't active. Move this wire out of the way so it's not touching that, and just kind of zip tie some things up so it's neater. Like I said, I plan on moving this a little bit later. Not that there's a really bad problem with where it is, but I just want to set it out a little bit further. Get it away from some of the stuff down here. But that's it. So we've got that hooked up. Before I get everything tidied up, I'm going to go down and do some testing. All right, well, back here around back, I've got my inputs coming out. Got coming out of the system here, going into my input 2. I could also use this one, I just don't have the cable for that or the other mixed output set up for it. So I will swap over to that later, but I had this other set up for an existing older system. So that's going in here. You can set this if you need. I'm going to leave it at the default. The power's hooked up. This is my antenna that we just set up in the attic, and then I can set the radio power as well. I'm going to leave that as it is also. Like I mentioned, if you do use your own cable or purchase more cable for a longer cable, be sure that it's the 50 ohm. And I think 25 is really the recommended length anyway, so that's what comes with the kit. You can use that. It's really going to be the best thing for you. So I've got all this hooked up, so I'm going to go ahead and power on. And one thing that's really nice that you can do is this test tone. You can see I had that on from before. What that'll do is that'll push that tone out. You can set your channel that you want to push out the audio on. Don't really remember what those are, so let's see. So there's the different channels. A is 72.1. E is 72.9 and H is 75.9. So you're going to set that to what the channel that you need. Using the test tone is the best way to go and take your receiver, go around and validate that. There's also a monitor here that you can hook up. You have some headphones. You want to listen to the mix and validate that there as well. And then, you know, you can balance your 1 and 2 inputs. I've got mine fully over to 2. So I'm gonna go test everything out and wrap everything up. All right, so everything tested out well. In fact, the great thing was, I could hear everything across the full sanctuary, even over to various Sunday school rooms, even out into my truck in the parking lot, which was great. So I'm going to turn the test tone off, and we should be ready for our first use of the system. Appreciate you joining me for the installation of this Listen Technologies LT803 and the antenna.